Today's reading is taken from the book of Matthew, chapter 8, verses 1 to 4. When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said. "Be clean." Immediately, he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them."
Well, hello, I'm Brian Harris, serve as the pastor at large here at Carey, and very good to be helping us to move back into a series that we've been having through the Gospel of Matthew, looking at the life of Jesus. And as we kick off from Matthew chapter 8, there are lots of parents here today. It's been a great Child Dedication Sunday. Let me ask you, those of you parents, are you a really conscientious parent when it comes to your child's grammar? Like one of these kind of pernickety, precise parents? And if so, have you ever kind of picked up on the can you, will you dilemma? Like maybe you've got an 8-year-old and they come home and they're very enthusiastic because they've seen someone in their class. Let's just say Noah has got a lovely Apple Watch. I like my Apple Watch, which I have somewhere there. And they come home and they say, Noah's got an Apple Watch. Can you get me an Apple Watch? And you say, "Yes, I can." And they say, "Wow, that's amazing, fantastic, that's so good." And then you say, "But I won't." And they look at you in horror and they're like, "What? Huh?" And you say, "Can is not the same as will. I can. I have $700 or whatever it costs, but I won't. I choose not to because I do not think that that is a good thing for you." And you have one very disappointed child and one grammatically confused child, but you've been conscientious as a parent. Now, you may say, "Well, why are you saying this? What's the point of all this? Thank you. It's been lovely service, but now we're going to go into a grammar lesson. That's not very exciting." No, just bear with me. Because there is an interesting dynamic going on in this fascinating little account in Matthew chapter 8. Here's a man, and all we know about him, he's just a leprous man. Like from a linguistic point of view, the passage is telling you he's a man with leprosy. He is an unnamed person. He is someone on the margins. He's this category, a leprous person. Comes to Jesus and sees Jesus as like this person who has power. He sees Jesus as a person who can do something. And so he says to Jesus, and it's almost confronting, he says, and let's listen to it from Matthew's Gospel. "When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, 'Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean.'" If you are willing, you can make me clean. He doesn't question Jesus' ability, but he is curious about Jesus' will. "Jesus, I know you can do this, but I'm not sure if you're going to." And it's quite a perceptive thing. And it's a question that's worth asking. Now, why does this man ask it? I don't know for certain. Why does he put it like that? Jesus could have been offended by that. He could have said, "What, are you questioning my willingness? Are you saying I'm the kind of person who doesn't really care? Well, if you think I don't care, well, then I'm not going to care. So that's it. Thank you very much." Jesus could have responded like that. He could have felt a little bit affronted by the way the man approached him. But instead, he said very remarkably, "I am willing." And he stretches out his hands and he amazingly touches this leprous man, and he's healed. But why was the man not sure that Jesus would be willing? Well, I don't know, but perhaps he had heard of that healing at the pool of Bethesda. Maybe you remember the account. John records it for us in John chapter 5. And at the Pool of Bethesda, Jesus had gone there, and it's a place where we're told that everyone who had all kinds of diseases, the lame, the sick, the infirm, they were there, and they were all waiting for this remarkable time when the water would be moved. And if you got to the water first, then you were the lucky person and you were healed. And there was a man there, he had been there for 38 years, and he had never been the winner, never. Like he'd been waiting each time, every time it happened, he didn't get there first. And Jesus comes to him and says, stand up, you're healed. And it's great, and it's a high-five moment, and it's a wonderful miracle. But here's the question. You see, if you're kind of just a leprous person who doesn't have a name, you know that you're one of those people for whom, like, these things don't happen for you, these good news things, and you think not necessarily about the person who was healed. You look around and you say, and what about all the others? I mean, there are lots of people who are there. Why is it just one person who's healed? And you say, I don't know. And I mean, I don't actually know why Jesus heals that one man, but not all the others. I mean, we can speculate. Perhaps it was because the others didn't ask. And maybe they didn't because the man who's healed, the man who'd been there for 38 years, well, you might remember when he gets healed, the Pharisees and the religious leaders come and like they just attack him and harass him because he's doing what? It happened on the Sabbath day, and they're very offended about it. And maybe the other people, like, it just makes them feel, I'm not going to say anything now, maybe I'll get healed another day. Perhaps, I don't know. Perhaps they were so preoccupied with their own suffering and their own pain that they didn't even notice what was happening. I don't know, the passage doesn't tell us, but it's a very interesting question. And you can't have been a follower of Jesus for a terribly long time without having that question come to you as well. Let me give you an example. I pastored a church in New Zealand for a number of years. And as a church community, we just faced this devastating period where in the course of 1 week, just in 1 week, we heard that 3 women in our congregation had all been told that they had terminal cancer. For all of them, it was late-stage cancer that had just been spotted, and they were basically told that palliative care was all that could really be offered for them. And because it was 3, like, all together in this 1 week, I mean, it's devastating at any time, but like so quick, so fast, and 3 together, we felt that God was saying to us, like you got to just pray about this, and you can't just roll over and accept this. Like pray, fast, do something. Don't just say that's okay. And so we did. And the church really rallied round, and they went to prayer, and we fasted, and we really did everything. We pleaded with God for these women. And here's the thing. 2 of them died. But the third one, against all the predictions, lived for well over 20 years more and died in her 80s, cancer-free. And like they all had the same diagnosis. They were all told it's over. They were all told there's no hope. And we prayed equally for all of them. 2 of them died. 1 of them was healed. Now, I don't know why. Do you? I mean, it's if you're willing. It's quite a hard thing, isn't it, to sometimes try and understand God's will. You see the third person and you say, so there you go. I know that God can do remarkable things. Like God can intervene in circumstances like that. But why? And we recognize that we don't always understand God's will and that it can be a difficult thing. And as this man comes to Jesus, he says, so Jesus, I know you can, but are you willing to? Do you actually want to? What are your purposes? What are your plans? Do I actually matter to you? Now, let's just flip this a little bit. Because on the one hand, it's Jesus who's being confronted. Jesus has been asked the question, are you willing? But you know what? In our own lives, in our own way, we are asked that question every day as well. What are you willing to do? Go back to your 8-year-old child. You know, can you get me the Apple Watch? Well, actually, I mean, some of you might not be able to, but many of you would be able to say, yes, I can. I mean, I don't want to give up my $700, but I've got it. I can do it. And you make a choice, don't you? I will or I won't. And with our lives, over and over again, we're making this choice. What will we do? It was Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, who made the fascinating comment, when we choose for others too. When we choose for others too. And then he went on to argue, even when we decide not to, or even when we decide not to decide, we have decided. Like everything we do has an implication. We make decisions and they impact other people. How you and I decide to choose to use our time impacts other people. The choices we make about how we will use our money impacts other people. The choices we make in terms of what we will stand up and protest against and what we will be silent to makes a difference. Like, if you are willing, you can ... And interestingly enough, as you go through Matthew's gospel, the very next account is an account of if you are willing. And it's not so much an if you are willing Jesus, but if you are willing about a person. Let me read you the account. So Matthew chapter 8. So we finished with the leprous man who Jesus says, I am willing. And then there's this. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion was a Roman leader, a Roman soldier who had oversight of 100 other soldiers, a fairly prominent person. A centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes, and I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Now, he heals the man. Jesus heals the man. But here's the thing. Like, put yourself in the Roman centurion's place. He's an important man. He has a servant who is unwell. Like, I beg your pardon, like, this is a world of servants and slaves, and sorry, servants and slaves do not count, they do not matter. This is a very hierarchical society. This man is important, that man is absolutely powerless. Why would the centurion put himself out and bother to go to Jesus? I mean, the servant is totally replaceable. But if he was willing, he could represent him. And he could say, on your behalf, I go and I will plead with Jesus. And notice, it did not cost the centurion nothing. Like, we might just overlook a couple of things because we're reading the passage too quickly. But did you notice what it says? The centurion comes to Jesus to ask him for help and says, Lord, my goodness, he's this Roman centurion. He is the power holder. He's going to this is not the resurrected Jesus he's coming to. So far as everyone was concerned, Jesus is just a little Jewish teacher who wanders around, and the Jews had been conquered. He's a man of no significance whatsoever. The Roman centurion is a significant man. And what does the Roman centurion have to do? He has to say, Lord, and Lord, I will do that. And he has to humble himself. I mean, he's making a choice. He's making a choice on behalf of another person. He's actually saying, my servant matters. My servant can't. And if it costs me something, well, it costs me something. It costs me having to say to this Jewish teacher that you're the Lord. Like, I mean, do you see the dynamic that's going on? But because he was willing, the man is healed. Or let's take another example. At the end of Matthew's gospel, Jesus says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. You know, make disciples of all nations, teaching them, baptizing them, telling them to serve and follow me. Now, if you are willing, you can say, yes, I'll do that. And you can say, yes, I go into life talking about Jesus. Or you can say, nah, I don't think I'll have those conversations, thank you very much. And if we choose to be silent, then people just don't hear. Or another example, Matthew 25. Do you remember Jesus says, like, it's the final day of judgment, and I'm looking and I'm saying to people, you know, come and enter into my Father's glory or don't. And those who don't hear him saying, it was because when I was hungry, you didn't feed me, and when I was naked, you didn't clothe me, and when I was in prison, you didn't come visit me. And the people say, but I never saw you hungry. If I did, I would have fed you. And I never saw you in prison. And Jesus says, but when you did it for the least of these, you did it for me. And so we have a choice again. Like Jesus is saying, you see me, you're supposed to see me in the poor, in the powerless, and the naked and those who are in prison. Have you seen me? And we have a choice. And we can say, yes, I do, and so I respond. Or we can say, nope, I'm not going to pay any attention to that very much. And, when we choose for others also, and it has an impact. Now, you can be listening to this and say, yeah, typical sermon. Like, sermons are supposed to make you squirm. Do you know, sermons are supposed to get you there and to challenge you and to tell you, you haven't been doing that, and you haven't been doing that, and you haven't been using your power appropriately, and you should use your money a little bit more, and you should use your time a little bit more, and like they're guilting exercises. Yeah, sometimes sermons are like that, and they certainly are. But I think better sermons are sermons that say, no, let's be adults about this. We all have choices of how we will use our time, choices of how we will use our money, choices of what we will say yes to and what we will say no to. And actually, you can't say yes to everything. I mean, if when your 8-year-old comes to you and says, can you buy me an Apple Watch? Yes, you can. But you know what? If you say yes every time, what happens? You raise a monster. Like no is appropriate quite often, and no is the word that we sometimes have to say. And that's okay. And sometimes with our time, we need to say, this I will say no to because I want to do these things really well. And we need to be responsible people who say, what am I willing to do? And what do I say I'm not going to do? And we need to say it in the presence of Jesus, who doesn't say yes to everything, but says be responsible about the way that you live your life. Let's though get back to the leprous man. So he comes to Jesus and he says, if you are willing, you can make me clean. And it may sound to us as though, it's just, what does he have to lose? Not very much. I beg your pardon. Let's just remember the rules that surrounded leprosy in Jesus' day. Do you recognize that the man was actually the leprous man was taking quite a risk in asking Jesus? Because the rules of leprosy were this. It was this dreaded skin disease. It was contagious. If you were a leper, that was just the day you discovered that you had leprosy was the very worst day of your life, because it meant that you're an outcast permanently after that. And there were leper colonies, and those leper colonies, the people who were kind, people would leave food for lepers who were there, but you could not go up to people and you could not contact them. So if you are, like this leprous man, let's be very clear, he has broken the rules, because the rules were this: you needed to call out, unclean, unclean, unclean. Like, I am here. If you're very, very kind, leave some food for me. When you're gone, I will go, I will pick it up, I will be grateful to you, but I know that you will never have any contact with me. Why will you never have any contact with me? Because I am unclean, and if you touch me and if you have any contact with me, you might get this terrible disease as well. So for everyone's safety, run away. I've alerted you. I am here. Stay clear. And so the man is supposed to be calling out unclean, unclean, and never approaching anyone. And if he did that, what was the consequence? Well, the consequence was that you just get stoned to death because you're too much of a danger. And so when the man approaches Jesus, like if you were a usual person in that time and you see a leper coming, you said, well, okay, what am I going to do? Maybe I'll be kind, maybe I'll eat some food. But if the leper is still approaching you, you would start screaming at them to go away. Go away, go away. Don't put me at risk, thank you very much. And if they don't listen, then you'd run away because you'd be at risk otherwise. But that doesn't happen here, does it? Doesn't happen. The leper keeps coming, and the people could have started stoning him. He's taking a risk in reaching out to Jesus. And he comes to Jesus and he says, well, you've not run away. Okay, that's a good sign. I know you've got great power. If you are willing, you can make me well. Now, what's it going to be? And Jesus says, I am willing. And the passage says, he stretches out his hand and he touches the man. Oops. Do you know what happened to Jesus at that point in time in terms of the Jewish law? He became unclean. because he had just touched a leper. You're not allowed to do that. Touch a leper, well, then he potentially could be leprous as well. He's supposed to be unclean, except he isn't. Because why? Because the miracle takes place and the man is healed. But there was a risk being taken. And when we bring our deepest hurts to Jesus, we take a great risk as well. Like Jesus tells us, Matthew 7:7, ask, and will be given to you. Seek, you'll find. Knock, the door will be opened to you. But we know that when we do that it's if you are willing, Jesus. And we know that the plans and the purposes of God are often complicated, and we do not fully understand them, and we do not always know what the answer of God will be. And some of us are too scared to even ask. Some of us are too scared to even face our deepest fears, because we say, what will happen if Jesus says, no, actually I'm not willing. Not because I don't love you, not because I don't care, but because somewhere in a way that maybe you will never understand, the answer needs to be no. And I will be with you, and I will journey with you, but I will not necessarily do what you've asked me to do. I mean, how do you manage at that moment? And I would say, have courage, because Jesus says, have the courage to ask. But remember Dante's famous line, in his will is our peace. In his will is our peace. Now, I don't claim to always know and to always understand the plan and the purpose of God, and it could be that you don't either. But don't let that mean that you don't ask. Ask, and it could be that Jesus says, I'm willing. When we asked for those 3 women who were terminally ill, Jesus looked at the first and said, no, I've got a place for you in glory, and it's time for you to come home. And to the second woman, he said, no, I have a place for you in glory, and it's time for you to come home. And he looked at the third woman and he said, yes, I'm willing. You stick around here for another 20 years, and you serve me well. And I don't claim to understand why God sometimes answers like that, but I know that he does. And I know that he says, have the courage to ask. But then remember, in his will is our peace. Let's pray together. And why not bring your deepest hopes and fears to God, to Jesus? He can. He absolutely can. And maybe even feel really angry at the thought that he perhaps won't. But actually he does know, and he does understand, and in his will we eventually find our peace. Lord, give us the courage to ask, and give us the courage to receive your answers. In your name, amen.